Well, it's late August now over in the Norfolk Broads at the cottage. I've been staying here this weekend, and the dike surrounding the cottage, as you can see, are heavily overgrown at this time of year with the reeds. The actual bit of the dike that comes into the garden's been cleared out. Everything's been cut back and taken down to the ground almost. Clean that out and allow some water to come back into it. Allows us to catch the spring bulbs that will come up later around those reeds, which we'd otherwise miss. Cottage is looking very late summerish at the moment. Last of the second summer flush of flowers on the wisteria have now finished. It set some seed pods, not as many as we saw the other week over at Felbrigg, but it's looking quite heavy, the growth on that, and it's ready for its summer prune to keep it off the roof and under from the tiles. So twice a year job cutting that wisteria back and keeping those roof tiles in place. Not an awful lot of colour remaining in the garden, I'm afraid to say. Got a few late roses just giving us a splash. This lovely pink one just round here, which we don't know the name of. It's been planted there since we purchased this cottage 4 years ago, giving a late splash of summer colour. And actually the herbaceous plantings here with the shrubs coming into their own a little now. Look at the colour on that, absolutely bright spot against the dark green foliage that forms right up into the hedge with the willow trees behind, screening us from the riverbank. That really is a hot spot and will remain so throughout winter. I know it's only August, but these viburnum are already coming into flower bud. Just look at that. Would not expect this to be putting a flush of flower on until midwinter. Scent off those absolutely breathtaking. It's not covered in flower bud, so most of it I think is going to flower at its normal season, but for some reason that's being brought into an early flush of flower. The pear tree that was planted just by the side of the old greenhouse is heavy with fruit. Boughs are actually weighing themselves down. Going to have to do a little bit of remedial work to remove a couple of those off the top of the greenhouse, otherwise I'm going to lose one of those panes. Noticed yesterday in the wind it was banging around. And the Braemar apple tree here's got some beautifully reddening fruit on it. Difficult one to pick this, it's such a big established apple tree. Showed you it earlier in the season with the red climbing rose running through it. It's almost dropped its leaves now. Really suffered I think from the drought. Wouldn't expect it to be droughted because just to the side of this tree, if it got its roots down 6 feet, would be in that dike. But this is a surprisingly dry garden considering we're surrounded by water. We're raised just that enough above it so that these trees still show the seasons. To the left we've got a white mulberry tree which is outgrowing its space a little, covered in soft white mulberries, none of which we eat. I don't rate white mulberries. Just a sweet, fibrous mass of nothing with no real taste to them. Leave them for the birds who do appreciate them. But that pear we will be picking. That's a beautiful conference. Eats very well every year. And certainly the Braemar, that's as good as any pink lady apple you can buy in a supermarket when that's ripe. Sweet, juicy, an absolute cracking apple. Again along the front of the cottage, late summer growth looking very heavy, dark green. Not a particularly sunny morning today. We've got quite a covering of grey threatening clouds. Sun keeps on breaking through and it's warm enough, but just no sun. The roses just doing a last little flush. Do love this one. Pink balls of flower. Not really coming to much. This is fading away to brown almost. But again, they've been so droughted over the summer here, and we've not got over quite as much as we would have wished to do all the work that this garden really deserves. But it's still looking very pleasant nonetheless. Definite job for this autumn is to take the last of the dye back in this old willow that's dying back here down to the ground and give it a chance to reshoot. I don't think that's going to would have done so by now if it was going to. I think we're going to take that out completely and replant, probably with an oak or a fresh young willow. Queen of Sweden still doing her thing here in the front of the cottage. Beautiful full double pink. This will go on flowering right until the first frosts and later. We've got one standard rose that's doing so beautifully, and it's pear that really is struggling. I think I'm going to have to take this out of its pot and explore what's going on with this root ball. I suspect there could be something like vine weevil or something damaging the roots on this one, because these were a matching pair, and last year they flowered symmetrically with this lush healthy growth, and this second and third flush of these beautiful crimson pink flowers throughout summer. So that's another job for this year. Little lavenders that we've left in are really growing away nicely. Look at the size of these. These were seedlings that have just fallen from the lavender hedge, where we tend to deadhead very late in the season to allow the seed to fall. And we've got a whole crop of lovely little maturing lavender plants, which we'll carefully dig quite deep when we're taking these out to pot them on. And we'll transpose some of those over towards Blakeney. And we're going to put some of them into the front of the rose bed over there. Aren't we, Ted? Don't think he's going to be much help, but you might give us a hand. Who knows? Geraniums in the pots, struggling a little bit now. Could really do for feed, just to perk those up a bit. Need to keep deadheading them when we come across. One of the plants we bought at the garden centre we visited last weekend has settled in nicely. Let me go and show you that daylily. I just had to have this when we saw it. We're going to go back to the garden centre. We may do a little video on it because it's such a good nursery, which really do feel should be given a helping hand here on the Norfolk Broads, people to get to know and visit. The plants that they're growing on there are quite unusual, stuff that you wouldn't find in a normal commercial garden centre. They are still a propagating nursery, and this is one of the things that we picked up last week. This beautiful pale creamy yellow large flowered daylily. And yes, I am almost ready to go. We're off to do a garden tour video of Summer Leighton Hall down by Lowestoft today, so I hope you'll join us and enjoy the magnificent gardens down at Summer Leighton. Thanks for watching.